Adventure 2 of The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Ruth Golding. The Red-Headed League.
The current lull in our professional lives.
I had called upon my friend Mr. Sherlock Holmes one day in the autumn of last year, and found him in deep conversation with a very stout, florid-faced, elderly gentleman with fiery red hair. With an apology for my intrusion, I was about to withdraw, when Holmes pulled me abruptly into the room and closed the door behind me.
My situation is
"You
one of
could
grave
not
financial
possibly have
hardship.
come at a better time, my dear
I have
Watson,"
come to seek your
he said
invaluable
cordially.
advice.
"I was afraid that you were engaged." "So I am,
I am a
very
governess
much
by
so."
profession, a
"Then
woman of
I
sound
can wait in the
education
next
and
room."
considerable resolve.
"Not
Though
at
at
all.
present
This gentleman, Mr. Wilson, has been my partner and helper in many of my most successful cases,
I
and I
assure
have
you,
no doubt
my
that he will be of the
standards of
utmost
conduct
use to
are
me
of
in
the
yours
highest
also."
order.
The stout gentleman half rose from his chair and gave a bob of greeting,
A
with a
peculiar
quick little
advertisement came to
questioning
my
glance from his small, fat, encircled eyes. "Try the settee," said Holmes, relapsing into his armchair and putting his fingertips together, as was his custom when in judicial moods. "I know, my dear Watson, that you share my love of all that is bizarre and outside the conventions and humdrum
He seemed
routine
charming
of
one
everyday
moment,
life.
then strangely
You have
intense
shown
the
your
next.
relish for it by the enthusiasm which has prompted you to chronicle,
£120, you
and,
say?
if you will excuse my saying so, somewhat to embellish so many of my own little adventures.
This job is not just governess.
Your cases
but
have
also companion
indeed
to
been
the
of the
family.
greatest interest to me," I observed.
£120 a
"You
year.
will remember that I remarked the other day, just before we went into the very simple problem presented by Miss Mary Sutherland, that for strange effects and extraordinary combinations we must go to
My
life
intuition warned
itself,
me,
which is
but my
always
wallet
far
forced
more
my
daring
hand.
than any effort of the imagination. A
The
proposition
money
which
was
I
the main
took the
reason I
liberty of
overlooked my initial
doubting.
misgivings.
You did, Doctor.
The most
But
unusual
nonetheless
clause
you
in the
must
contract
come
was the one
round
that
to my
required me to
view,
give up all
for otherwise I shall
personal
keep on piling fact upon fact on you, until your reason breaks down under them and acknowledges me to be right.
Should I accept
Now,
this
Mr.
strange offer,
Jabez
or should
Wilson
I
here
face
has been good
destitution?
enough to call upon me
I
this
truly need
morning,
your advice.
and to begin a narrative
accept this
which
case
promises to be one
with
of the most
exercise
singular which
extreme
I have
caution.
listened to for some time. You have heard me remark
You are
that the
dealing with a
strangest
dangerous
and
man, Miss
most
Hunter. A
unique
moral
things
risk, I
are
assure
very
you.
often connected not with the larger
take
but with the
position.
smaller crimes,
I must face these
and
unknown
occasionally
dangers for the sake of the
indeed
money.
where there is room for doubt whether any
If you encounter
positive
serious
crime
danger
has been
or discover
committed.
anything significant, telegraph me
As
immediately.
far as I
The
have
code word for
heard,
danger
it is
red.
impossible for me to say
high
whether the
fee and
present
strict
case
compliance
is
are
an
classic
instance of
indicators
crime
of a
or
deep
not.
secret being hidden.
But the course of events is certainly among the most singular that I have ever listened to. Perhaps, Mr. Wilson, you would have the great kindness to
Is this
recommence
truly
your
necessary?
narrative. I ask you not merely because my friend Dr. Watson has not heard the opening part, but also because the peculiar nature of the story makes me anxious to have every possible detail from your lips. As a rule, when I have heard some slight indication of the course of events, I am able to guide myself
A single
by the
hair.
thousands of other similar cases which occur to my memory. In the present instance, I am forced to admit that the facts are, to the best of my belief, unique. The portly
combination of the
client
cut hair and
puffed
the
out
specific
his
dress
chest
made
with
me
an
feel like a
appearance of
copy.
some little pride,
The
and
second
pulled a
peculiar
dirty and
demand was that I
wrinkled
should wear a
newspaper
particular
from
blue
the
dress,
inside
a
pocket
chip
of his
they sang,
greatcoat.
provided by Mr. Rucastle
As he
himself.
glanced
A
down the
simple but effective
advertisement column with his
disguise,
head
designed
thrust
for
forward
external
and the
observers.
paper flattened out upon his knee, I took a good look at the man, and endeavoured, after the fashion of my companion, to read the indications which might be presented by his dress or appearance.
I expect
I did not gain very much, however, by my inspection. Our visitor bore every mark of being an average, commonplace British tradesman, obese, pompous, and slow. He wore rather baggy grey shepherd's check trousers, a not over-clean black frock coat unbuttoned in the front, and a drab waistcoat with a heavy, brassy Albert chain and a square, pierced bit of metal dangling down as an ornament. A frayed top hat and a faded brown overcoat with a wrinkled velvet collar lay upon a chair beside him. Altogether, look as I would, there was nothing remarkable about the man save his blazing red head and the expression of extreme chagrin and discontent upon his features. Sherlock Holmes' quick eye took in my occupation, and he shook his head with a smile as he noticed my questioning glances. Beyond the obvious facts that he has at some time done manual labour, that he takes snuff, that he is a Freemason, that he has been in China, and that he has done a considerable amount of writing lately, I can deduce nothing else. Mr. Jabez Wilson started up in his chair, with his forefinger upon the paper, but his eyes upon my companion.
How in the name of good fortune did you know all that, Mr. Holmes? He asked. How did you know, for example, that I did manual labour? It's as true as gospel, for yes. I began as a ship's carpenter.
The game is
Your hands, my dear sir. Your right hand is quite a size larger than your left. You have worked with it, and the muscles are more developed.
Well, the snuff, then, and the Freemasonry.
I won't insult your intelligence by telling you how I read that,
We have entered
especially as rather against the strict rules of your order. You use an arc and compass breastpin.
Ah, of course, I forgot that. But the writing?
What else can be indicated by that right cuff, so very shiny for 5 inches, and the left one with the smooth patch near the elbow, where you rest it upon the desk?
Well, but China.
The fish that you have tattooed immediately above your right wrist could only have been done in China. I have made a small study of tattoo marks, and have even contributed to the literature of the subject. That trick of staining the fish's scales of a delicate pink is quite peculiar to China. When, in addition, I see a Chinese coin hanging from your watch chain, the matter becomes even more simple. Mr. Jabez Wilson laughed heavily.
Well, I never, said he. I thought at first you had done something clever, but I see that there was nothing in it after all.
I begin to think, Watson, said Holmes, that I make a mistake in explaining. Omne ignotum pro magnifico, you know. And my poor little reputation, such as it is, will suffer shipwreck if I am so candid.
Poor woman.
Can you not find the advertisement, Mr. Wilson?
Perhaps even more so.
Yes, I've got it now,
he answered, with his thick red finger planted halfway down the column.
Here it is. This is what began it all. You just read it for yourself, sir.
And composed.
I took the paper from him and read as follows. To the Red-Headed League. On account of the bequest of the late Ezekiah Hopkins of Lebanon, Pennsylvania, USA, there is now another vacancy open, which entitles a member of the League to a salary of £4 a week for purely nominal services. All red-headed men who are sound in body and mind and above the age of 21 years are eligible. Apply in person on Monday at 11 o'clock to Duncan Ross at the offices of the League, 7 Pope's Court, Fleet Street.
What on earth does this mean?
I ejaculated after I had twice read over the extraordinary announcement. Holmes chuckled and wriggled in his chair, as was his habit when in high spirits.
"It is a little off the beaten track, isn't it?"
said he. "And now, Mr. Wilson, off you go at scratch and tell us all about yourself, your household, and the effect which this advertisement had upon your fortunes.
Far more sinister.
You will first make a note, Doctor, of the paper and the date." "It is the Morning Chronicle of April 27th, 1890, just 2 months ago." "Very good. Now, Mr. Wilson."
Hunter is now isolated and at risk.
"Well, it is just as I have been telling you, Mr. Sherlock Holmes,"
said Jabez Wilson, mopping his forehead.
"I have a small pawnbroker's business at Coburg Square near the city. It's not a very large affair, and of late years it has not done more than just give me a living. I used to be able to keep 2 assistants, but now I only keep 1, and I would have a job to pay him, but that he is willing to come for half wages so as to learn the business."
"What is the name of this obliging youth?" asked Sherlock Holmes.
"His name is Vincent Spaulding, and he's not such a youth either. It's hard to say his age. I should not wish a smarter assistant, Mr. Holmes, and I know very well that he could better himself and earn twice what I am able to give him. But after all, if he is satisfied, why should I put ideas in his head?"
"Why, indeed. You seem most fortunate in having an employé who comes under the full market price. It is not a common experience among employers in this age. I don't know that your assistant is not as remarkable as your advertisement."
"Oh, he has his faults too," said Mr. Wilson. "Never was such a fellow for photography. Snapping away with a camera when he ought to be improving his mind, and then diving down into the cellar like a rabbit into its hole to develop his pictures. That is his main fault, but on the whole he's a good worker. There's no vice in him."
"He is still with you, I presume?"
"Yes, sir. He and a girl of 14 who does a bit of simple cooking and keeps the place clean. That's all I have in the house, for I am a widower and never had any family. We live very quietly, sir, the 3 of us, and we keep a roof over our heads and pay our debts if we do nothing more. The first thing that put us out was that advertisement. Spaulding, he came down into the office just this day 8 weeks with this very paper in his hand, and he says, 'I wish to the Lord, Mr. Wilson, that I was a red-headed man.' 'Why that?' I asks. 'Why,' says he, 'here's another vacancy on the League of the Red-Headed Men. It's worth quite a little fortune to any man who gets it, and I understand that there are more vacancies than there are men, so that the trustees are at their wits' end what to do with the money. If my hair would only change colour, here's a nice little crib all ready for me to step into.' Why, what is it then?" I asked. "You see, Mr. Holmes, I'm a very stay-at-home man, and as my business came to me instead of my having to go to it, I was often weeks on end without putting my foot over the doormat. In that way I didn't know much of what was going on outside, and I was always glad of a bit of news." "Have you never heard of the League of the Red-Headed Men?" he asked with his eyes open. "Never." "Why, I wonder at that, for you are eligible yourself for one of the vacancies." "And what are they worth?" I asked. "Oh, merely a couple of hundred a year, but the work is slight, and it need not interfere very much with one's other occupations." Well, you can easily think that made me prick up my ears, for the business has not been over good for some years, and an extra couple of hundred would have been very handy. "Tell me all about it," said I. "Well," said he, showing me the advertisement, "you can see for yourself that the League has a vacancy, and there is the address where you should apply for particulars. As far as I can make out, the League was founded by an American millionaire, Ezekiah Hopkins, who was very peculiar in his ways. He was himself red-headed, and he had a great sympathy for all red-headed men. So when he died, it was found that he had left his enormous fortune in the hands of trustees, with instructions to apply the interest to the providing of easy berths to men whose hair is of that colour. From all I hear, it is splendid pay and very little to do. But, said I, there would be millions of red-headed men who would apply. Not so many as you might think, he answered. You see, it is really confined to Londoners and to grown men. This American had started from London when he was young, and he wanted to do the old town a good turn. Then again, I have heard it is no use your applying if your hair is light red or dark red or anything but real bright, blazing, fiery red. Now, if you cared to apply, Mr. Wilson, you would just walk in. But perhaps it would hardly be worth your while to put yourself out of the way for the sake of a few £100. Now, it is a fact, gentlemen, as you may see for yourselves, that my hair is of a very full and rich tint, so that it seemed to me that if there was to be any competition in the matter, I stood as good a chance as any man that I had ever met. Vincent Spaulding seemed to know so much about it that I thought he might prove useful, so I just ordered him to put up the shutters for the day and to come right away with me. He was very willing to have a holiday, so we shut the business up and started off for the address that was given us in the advertisement. I never hoped to see such a sight as that again, Mr. Holmes. From north, south, east and west, every man who had a shade of red in his hair had tramped into the city to answer the advertisement. Fleet Street was choked with red-headed folk, and Pope's Court looked like a coster's orange barrow. I should not have thought there were so many in the whole country as were brought together by that single advertisement. Every shade of colour they were: straw, lemon, orange, brick, Irish setter, liver, clay. But as Spaulding said, there were not many who had the real vivid flame-coloured tint. When I saw how many were waiting, I would have given it up in despair, but Spaulding would not hear of it. How he did it I could not imagine, but he pushed and pulled and butted until he got me through the crowd, right up to the steps which led to the office. There was a double stream upon the stair, some going up in hope, and some coming back dejected, but we wedged in as well as we could, and soon found ourselves in the office.
Your experience has been a most entertaining one, remarked Holmes, as his client paused and refreshed his memory with a huge pinch of snuff. Pray continue your very interesting statement.
My conscience demands it.
There was nothing in the office but a couple of wooden chairs and a deal table, behind which sat a small man with a head that was even redder than mine. He said a few words to each candidate as he came up, and then he always managed to find some fault in them which would disqualify them. Getting a vacancy did not seem to be such a very easy matter after all. However, when our turn came, the little man was much more favourable to me than to any of the others, and he closed the door as we entered so that he might have a private word with us.
"This is Mr. Jabez Wilson," said my assistant, "and he is willing to fill a vacancy in the League."
"And he is admirably suited for it," the other answered. "He has every requirement. I cannot recall when I have seen anything so fine." He took a step backward, cocked his head on one side, and gazed at my hair until I felt quite bashful. Then suddenly he plunged forward, wrung my hand and congratulated me warmly on my success. "It would be injustice to hesitate," said he. "You will, however, I am sure, excuse me for taking an obvious precaution." With that he seized my hair in both his hands and tugged until I yelled with the pain. "There is water in your eyes," said he as he released me. "I perceive that all is as it should be. But we have to be careful, for we have twice been deceived by wigs and once by paint. I could tell you tales of cobbler's wax which would disgust you with human nature." He stepped over to the window and shouted through it at the top of his voice that the vacancy was filled.
Finally done.
A groan of disappointment came up from below, and the folk all trooped away in different directions until there was not a red head to be seen except my own and that of the manager. "My name," said he, "is Mr. Duncan Ross, and I am myself one of the pensioners upon the fund left by our noble benefactor. Are you a married man, Mr. Wilson? Have you a family?" I answered that I had not. His face fell immediately. "Dear me," he said gravely, "that is very serious indeed. I am sorry to hear you say that. The fund was, of course, for the propagation and spread of the redheads, as well as for their maintenance. It is exceedingly unfortunate that you should be a bachelor." My face lengthened at this, Mr. Holmes, for I thought that I was not to have the vacancy after all, but after thinking it over for a few minutes he said that it would be all right. "In the case of another," said he, "the objection might be fatal, but we must stretch a point in favour of a man with such a head of hair as yours. When shall you be able to enter upon your new duties?" "Well, it is a little awkward, for I have a business already," said I. "Oh, never mind about that, Mr. Wilson," said Vincent Spaulding. "I should be able to look after that for you."
Boy, aren't you? Yes, you are.
"What would be the hours?" I asked. 10 to 2.
Carlo is locked in his run in the morning
Now,
and
a
released at
pawnbroker's
night.
business is mostly done of an
This
evening,
practice is
Mr.
vital to
Holmes,
Newcastle's security.
especially Thursday and Friday evening, which is just before payday, so it would suit me very well to earn a little in the mornings. Besides, I knew that my assistant was a good man and that he would see to anything that turned up." "That would suit me very well," said I. "And the pay?" "Is £4 a week. And the work?" "Is purely nominal." "What do you call purely nominal?" "Well, you have to be in the office, or at least in the building, the whole time. If you leave, you forfeit your whole position for ever. The will is very clear upon that point. You don't comply with the conditions if you budge from the office during that time. It's only 4 hours a day, and I should not think of leaving," said I. "No excuse will avail," said Mr. Duncan Ross. "Neither sickness nor business nor anything else. There you must stay or you lose your billet." "And the work?" "Is to copy out the Encyclopedia Britannica. There is the first volume of it in that press. You must find your own ink, pens and blotting paper, but we provide this table and chair. Will you be ready tomorrow?" "Certainly," I answered. "Then goodbye, Mr. Jabez Wilson, and let me congratulate you once more on the important position which you have been fortunate enough to gain." He bowed me out of the room, and I went home with my assistant, hardly knowing what to say or do. I was so pleased at my own good fortune. Well, I thought over the matter all day, and by evening I was in low spirits again, for I had quite persuaded myself that the whole affair must be some great hoax or fraud, though what its object might be I could not imagine. It seemed altogether past belief that anyone could make such a will, or that they would pay such a sum for doing anything so simple as copying out the Encyclopedia Britannica. Vincent Spaulding did what he could to cheer me up, but by bedtime I had reasoned myself out of the whole thing. However, in the morning I determined to have a look at it anyhow, so I bought a penny bottle of ink, and with a quill pen and 7 sheets of foolscap paper, I started off for Pope's Court. Well, to my surprise and delight, everything was as right as possible. The table was set out ready for me, and Mr. Duncan Ross was there to see that I got fairly to work. He started me off upon the letter A, and then he left me, but he would drop in from time to time to see that all was right with me. At 2 o'clock he bade me good day, complimented me upon the amount that I had written, and locked the door of the office after me. This went on day after day, Mr. Holmes, and on Saturday the manager came in and planked down 4 golden sovereigns for my week's work. It was the same next week, and the same the week after. Every morning I was there at 10, and every afternoon I left at 2. By degrees, Mr. Duncan Ross took to coming in only once of a morning, and then after a time he did not come in at all. Still, of course, I never dared to leave the room for an instant, for I was not sure when he might come, and the billet was such a good one and suited me so well that I would not risk the loss of it.
From Hunter.
8 weeks passed away like this, and I had written about abbots and archery and armour and architecture and Attica, and hoped with diligence that I might get on to the bees before very long. It cost me something in foolscap, and I had pretty nearly filled a shelf with my writings. And then, suddenly, the whole business came to an end.
To an end?
Yes, sir, and no later than this morning I went to my work as usual at 10 o'clock, but the door was shut and locked, with a little square of cardboard hammered onto the middle of the panel with a tack. Here it is, and you can read for yourself. He held up a piece of white cardboard about the size of a sheet of notepaper. It read in this fashion: "The Red-Headed League is dissolved. October the 9th, 1890. Sherlock Holmes and I surveyed this curt announcement and the rueful face behind it until the comical side of the affair so completely overtopped every other consideration that we both burst out into a roar of laughter. "I cannot see that there is anything very funny," cried our client, flushing up to the roots of his flaming head. "If you can do nothing better than laugh at me, I can go elsewhere." "No, no," cried Holmes, shoving him back into the chair from which he had half risen. "I really wouldn't miss your case for the world. It is most refreshingly unusual. But there is, if you will excuse my saying so, something just a little funny about it. Pray, what steps did you take when you found the card upon the door?" "I was staggered, sir. I did not know what to do. Then I called at the offices round, but none of them seemed to know anything about it. Finally, I went to the landlord, who is an accountant living on the ground floor, and I asked him if he could tell me what had become of the Red-Headed League. He said that he had never heard of any such body. Then I asked him who Mr. Duncan Ross was. He answered that the name was new to him. "Well," said I, "the gentleman at number 4. "What, the red-headed man?" "Yes." "Oh," said he, "his name was William Morris. He was a solicitor and was using my room as a temporary convenience until his new premises were ready. He moved out yesterday." "Where could I find him?" "Oh, at his new offices. He did tell me the address. Yes, 17 King
Goodbye,
Edward
Miss
Street,
Hunter.
near St. Paul's. I started off, Mr. Holmes, but when I got to that address, it was a manufactory of artificial kneecaps, and no one in it had ever heard of either Mr. William Morris or Mr. Duncan Ross.
And what did you do then? Asked Holmes.
I went home to Saxe-Coburg Square, and I took the advice of my assistant. But he could not help me in any way. He could only say that if I waited I should hear by post. But that was not quite good enough, Mr. Holmes. I did not wish to lose such a place without a struggle, so as I had heard that you were good enough to give advice to poor folk who were in need of it, I came right away to you.
And you did very wisely, said Holmes. Your case is an exceedingly remarkable one, and I shall be happy to look into it. From what you have told me, I think that it is possible that graver issues hang from it than might at first sight appear.
Grave enough, said Mr. Jabez Wilson. Why, I have lost £4 a week.
Where is she?
As far as you are personally concerned, remarked Holmes, I do not see that you have any grievance against this extraordinary league. On the contrary, you are, as I understand, richer by some £30, to say nothing of the minute knowledge which you have gained on every subject which comes under the letter A. You have lost nothing by them.
No, sir, but I want to find out about them and who they are, and what their object was in playing this prank, if it was a prank, upon me. It was a pretty expensive joke for them, for it cost them £32.
We shall endeavour to clear up these points for you. And first, one or two questions, Mr. Wilson. This assistant of yours, who first called your attention to the advertisement, how long had he been with you?
About a month, then.
How did he come?
In answer to an advertisement.
Was he the only applicant?
No, I had a dozen.
Why did you pick him?
Because he was handy and would come cheap.
Xuất hiện ở ngưỡng cửa.
At half wages, in fact.
Yes.
What is he like, this Vincent Spaulding?
Small, stout-built, very quick in his ways. No hair on his face, though he's not short of 30. Has a white splash of acid upon his forehead.
Holmes sat up in his chair in considerable excitement. I thought as much, said he. Have you ever observed that his ears are pierced for earrings?
Yes, sir. He told me that a gypsy had done it for him when he was a lad.
Alice Rucastle.
Said Holmes, sinking back in deep thought. He is still with you?
Oh, yes, sir. I've only just left him.
It was nearly perfect.
And has your business been attended to in your absence?
Nothing to complain of, sir. There's never very much to do of a morning.
That will do, Mr. Wilson. I shall be happy to give you an opinion upon the subject in the course of a day or two. Today is Saturday, and I hope that by Monday we may come to a conclusion.
Well, Watson,
said Holmes when our visitor had left us, what do you make of it all?
I make nothing of it,
I answered frankly.
It is a most mysterious business.
As a rule, said Holmes, the more bizarre a thing is, the less mysterious it proves to be. It is your commonplace, featureless crimes which are really puzzling, just as a commonplace face is the most difficult to identify. But I must be prompt over this matter.
What are you going to do, then?
I asked.
Get out of there, you!
To smoke, he answered. It is quite a three-pipe problem, and I beg that you won't speak to me for 50 minutes.
I will not be silenced.
He
I will
curled
not give
himself
in.
up in his chair, with his thin knees drawn up to his hawk-like nose, and there he sat with his eyes closed and his black clay pipe thrusting out like the bill of some strange bird. I had come to the conclusion that he had dropped asleep, and indeed was nodding myself, when he suddenly sprang out of his chair with the gesture of a man who has made up his mind, and put his pipe down upon the mantelpiece. "Sarasate plays at the St. James's Hall this afternoon," he remarked. "What do you think, Watson? Could your patient spare you for a few hours?" "I have nothing to do today. My practice is never very absorbing." "Then put on your hat and come. I am going through the city first,
No,
and we
the
can have
risks
some
are too
lunch on the
high.
way.
I must wait.
I observe that there is a good deal of German music on the programme, which is rather more to my taste than Italian or French. It is introspective, and I want to introspect. Come along." End of Part 1 of Adventure 2, The Red-Headed League.
You fool! You should have stayed hidden!
Part 2 of Adventure 2 from The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Ruth Golding. The Red-Headed League, Part 2. We travelled by the Underground as far as Aldersgate, and a short walk took us to Saxe-Coburg Square, the scene of the singular story which we had listened to in the morning.
My message must reach home.
It was a poky, little, shabby-genteel place, where 4 lines of dingy 2-storied brick houses looked out into a small railed-in enclosure, where a lawn of weedy grass and a few clumps of faded laurel bushes made a hard fight against a smoke-laden and uncongenial atmosphere. 3 gilt balls and a brown board with Jabez Wilson in white letters upon a corner house announced the place where our red-headed client carried on his business. Sherlock Holmes stopped in front of it with his head on one side and looked it all over, with his eyes shining brightly between puckered lids. Then he walked slowly up the street and then down again to the corner, still looking keenly at the houses. Finally he returned to the pawnbroker's, and having thumped vigorously upon the pavement with his stick 2 or 3 times, he went up to the door and knocked. It was instantly opened by a bright-looking, clean-shaven young fellow who asked him to step in. "Thank you,"
Tell me more
said
about the
Holmes.
secluded house and
"I
any
only
peculiar
wish to
rumours
ask
about
you
the
how
family.
you would go from here to the Strand." "Third right, 4th left," answered the assistant promptly, closing the door. "Smart fellow, that," observed Holmes as we walked away. "He is, in my judgment, the 4th smartest man in London, and for daring I am not sure that he has not a claim to be 3rd.
Sinister.
I have known something of him before."
"Evidently," said I, "Mr. Wilson's assistant counts for a good deal in this mystery of the Red-Headed League. I am sure that you inquired your way merely in order that you might see him."
"Not him.
"What then?"
The knees of his trousers."
"And what did you see?"
What I expected to see.
"Why did you beat the pavement?"
My dear doctor, this is a time for observation, not for talk. We are spies in an enemy's country. We know something of Saxe-Coburg Square. Let us now explore the parts which lie behind it. The road in which we found ourselves as we turned round the corner from the retired Saxe-Coburg Square presented as great a contrast to it as the front of a picture does to the back. It was one of the main arteries which conveyed the traffic of the city to the north and west. The roadway was blocked with the immense stream of commerce flowing in a double tide inward and outward, while the footpaths were black with the hurrying swarm of pedestrians. It was difficult to realize, as we looked at the line of fine shops and stately business premises, that they really abutted on the other side upon the faded and stagnant square which we had just quitted. "Let me see," said Holmes, standing at the corner and glancing along the line. "I should like just to remember the order of the houses here. It is a hobby of mine to have an exact knowledge of London. There is Mortimer's, the tobacconist, the little newspaper shop, the Coburg branch of the City and Suburban Bank, the vegetarian restaurant, and McFarlane's carriage building depot. That carries us right on to the other block. And now, Doctor, we've done our work, so it's time we had some play. A sandwich and a cup of coffee, and then off to Violin Land, where all is sweetness and delicacy and harmony, and there are no red-headed clients to vex us with their conundrums." My friend was an enthusiastic musician, being himself not only a very capable performer, but a composer of no ordinary merit. All the afternoon he sat in the stalls, wrapped in the most perfect happiness, gently waving his long thin fingers in time to the music, while his gently smiling face and his languid dreamy eyes were as unlike those of Holmes the sleuth-hound, Holmes the relentless, keen-witted, ready-handed criminal agent, as it was possible to conceive. In his singular character the dual nature alternately asserted itself, and his extreme exactness and astuteness represented, as I have often thought, the reaction against the poetic and contemplative mood which occasionally predominated in him. The swing of his nature took him from extreme languor to devouring energy, and, as I knew well, he was never so truly formidable as when, for days on end, he had been lounging in his armchair amid his improvisations and his black-letter editions. Then it was that the lust of the chase would suddenly come upon him, and that his brilliant reasoning power would rise to the level of intuition, until those who were unacquainted with his methods would look askance at him, as on a man whose knowledge was not that of other mortals. When I saw him that afternoon, so enwrapped in the music at St. James's Hall, I felt that an evil time might be coming upon those whom he had set himself to hunt down. "You want to go home, no doubt, Doctor," he remarked as we emerged.
"Yes, it would be as well."
"And I have some business to do which will take some hours. This business at Coburg Square is serious."
"Why serious?"
"A considerable crime is in contemplation. I have every reason to believe that we shall be in time to stop it, but today being Saturday rather complicates matters. I shall want your help tonight."
"At what time?"
10 will be early enough.
"I shall be at Baker Street at 10.
Very well. And I say, Doctor, there may be some little danger, so kindly put your army revolver in your pocket." He waved his hand, turned on his heel, and disappeared in an instant among the crowd. I trust that I am not more dense than my neighbours, but I was always oppressed with a sense of my own stupidity in my dealings with Sherlock Holmes. Here
I had
The
heard
purpose of
what
the
he had
imprisonment
heard.
is to isolate
I
Alice
had
from her
seen what
fiancé.
he had seen. And yet, from his
Miss Hunter was
words,
hired to fill
it was
Alice's place
evident that
after her
he saw
disappearance,
clearly
acting as a
not
false
only
signal
what
to
had
Fowler that
happened,
Alice was simply
but what
withdrawn,
was
not
about
harmed
to
or
happen.
confined.
While to me, the whole business was still confused and grotesque. As I drove home to my house in Kensington, I thought over it all, from the extraordinary story of the red-headed copier of the encyclopedia down to the visit to Saxe-Coburg Square, and the ominous words with
Newcastle is
which
a
he had
potential
parted
murderer
from me.
willing to hold his own stepdaughter
What
captive
was
for
this nocturnal expedition, and why should I go armed? Where were we going, and what were we to do? I had the hint
Analysis
from
complete.
Holmes that this
Rescue must begin before
smooth-faced
Rucastle can
pawnbroker's
harm Alice
assistant
or
was a
Hunter.
formidable man, a man who might play a deep game. I tried to puzzle it out, but gave it up in despair,
wait until the
and
dead
set
of
the
night
matter
to ensure the
aside
greatest
until
stealth.
night should bring an explanation. It
Where
was
can
a
I
quarter
find Mr.
past
Fowler?
9 when I started from home and made my way across the park and so through Oxford Street to Baker Street. 2 hansoms were standing at the door, and as I entered the passage I heard the
Newcastle's
sound of
paranoia
voices
had
from
instilled a
above.
deep secrecy in the villagers,
On entering
making
his
it nearly
room,
impossible
I
to
found
extract
Holmes
any
in animated conversation with 2 men, one of whom I recognised as Peter Jones, the official police agent, while the other was a long,
This
thin,
injustice must be
sad-faced man
rectified.
with a very shiny hat and oppressively respectable frock coat. "Ah, our party is complete," said Holmes,
Her courage
buttoning
in
up
sending
his
the
pea
letter and her
jacket
intelligence
and
in
taking
noting
his
the
heavy
details
hunting
were the
crop
sole
from
reason
the rack.
mystery was solved.
"Watson, I think you know Mr.
must use
Jones
Fowler's
of
knowledge
Scotland
the house's
Yard.
exterior, his
Let me
desperation
introduce
help
you
aid
to
our
Mr.
nighttime
Merriweather,
infiltration.
who is to be our companion in tonight's adventure."
"We're hunting in couples again, Doctor, you see.
said Jones in his consequential way.
That dog is a
Our
no
friend here is a wonderful man for starting a chase.
We
All
must
he
act
wants
at
is an
once.
old dog to help him to do the running down.
"I hope a wild goose may not prove to be the
Don't
end
get
of
low.
our chase,"
Don't
observed
angry,
Mr. Merriweather gloomily.
You may place
Don't- don't-
considerable
don't-
confidence
don't-
in Mr. Holmes, sir.
said the police agent loftily.
He has his own little methods, which are, if he won't mind my saying so, just a little too theoretical and fantastic. But he has the makings of a detective in him. It is not too much to say that once or twice,
must
as in that
neutralise
business of
or
the
distract
Sholto
the dog.
murder and the Agra treasure, he has been more nearly correct than the official force.
"Oh, if you say so, Mr. Jones, it is all right," said the stranger with deference. "Still, I confess that I miss my rubber. It is the first Saturday
The
night
access
for
point, the
27
weakest point.
years that I have not
Yes.
had my rubber." "I think you will find," said Sherlock Holmes,
We must act
"that
quickly.
you will
There is no
play
time
for
to
a
lose.
higher stake tonight than you have ever done yet, and that the play will be
Deception
more
aimed at Fowler,
exciting.
Hunter and Fowler accounts
For you,
confirmed
Mr.
imprisonment.
Merriweather, the stake will be some £30,000. And for you, Jones, it will be the man upon whom you wish to lay your
We must
hands."
rescue her, no matter the cost.
John Clay, the murderer, thief, smasher, and forger. He's a young man, Mr. Merriweather, but he is at the head of his profession.
Here she is.
And I would rather have my bracelets on him than on
We
any
must consider
criminal in
every
London.
variable.
He is a remarkable
certain
man,
that's
is young
right.
John Clay.
It's our only
His
option.
grandfather was a royal duke, and he himself has been to Eton and Oxford. His brain is as cunning as his fingers, and
Remain
though we
hidden.
meet signs of
Be
him
ready
at
to
every
assist
turn,
once
we
the commotion
never know where
begins,
to find the man
ensuring our
himself.
entry remains covert.
He'll crack a crib in Scotland
He
one
spends his
week and be
evenings going
raising
down this
money to
path
build an
here.
orphanage in Cornwall the next. I've been on his track for years and have never set eyes on him yet.
Yes, the security of the house is
"I
now
hope
perfectly
that
clear.
I may have the pleasure of introducing you tonight. I've had 1 or 2 little turns also with Mr. John Clay.
and I agree with you that he
The
is at
silent
the head
silhouette
of
the
his
house,
profession.
bathed in the pale moonlight,
It is past
seemed to
10,
whisper
however,
tales of
and
profound
quite
evil.
time that we started.
Everything must be secure,
If you two will take the first hansom, Watson and I will follow in the second. Sherlock Holmes was not very communicative during the long drive, and lay back in the cab humming the tunes which he had heard in the
The third
afternoon.
window on the right.
We rattled through an endless labyrinth of gaslit streets until we
Mr.
emerged
Fowler, the
into
fiancé of
Farrington
Miss Alice
Street.
Turner?
We are close there now,
Yes,
my
safe
friend
for
remarked.
tonight.
This fellow Merriweather is a bank director, and personally interested in the matter. I thought it as well to have Jones with us also. He is not a bad fellow, though an absolute imbecile in his profession. He has one positive virtue. He is as brave as a bulldog, and as tenacious as a lobster if he gets his claws upon anyone. Here we are, and they are waiting for us. We had reached the same crowded thoroughfare in which we had found ourselves in the morning. Our cabs were dismissed, and following the guidance of Mr. Merriweather, we passed down a narrow passage and through a side door which he opened for us. Within there was a small corridor which ended in a very massive iron gate. This also was opened and led down a flight of winding stone steps, which terminated at another formidable gate. Mr. Merriweather stopped to light a lantern, and then conducted us down a dark, earth-smelling
Looking for a
passage,
weak point
and
or
so,
secondary entrance.
after opening a third door, into a huge vault or cellar, which was piled all round with crates and massive boxes. "You are not very vulnerable from above," Holmes remarked as he held up the lantern and gazed about him.
"Nor from below,"
said Mr. Merriweather, striking his stick upon the flags which lined the floor.
"Why, dear me, it sounds quite hollow,"
he remarked, looking up in surprise.
I must really ask you to be a little more quiet,
said Holmes severely.
You have already imperilled the whole success of our expedition. Might I beg that you would have the goodness to sit down upon one of those boxes and not to interfere?
Night conceals their treachery.
The solemn Mr. Merriweather perched himself upon a crate with a very injured expression upon his face, while Holmes fell upon his knees upon the floor, and with the lantern and a magnifying lens began to examine minutely the cracks between the stones. A few seconds sufficed to satisfy him, for he sprang to his feet again and put his glass in his pocket. "We have at least an hour before us," he remarked, "for they can hardly take any steps until the good pawnbroker is safely in bed. Then they will not lose a minute, for the sooner they do their work, the longer time they will have for their escape. We are at present, Doctor, as no doubt you have divined, in the cellar of the City branch of one of the principal London banks. Mr. Merriweather is the chairman of directors, and he will explain to you that there are reasons why the more daring criminals of London should take a considerable interest in this cellar at present."
"It is our French gold," whispered the director. "We have had several warnings that an attempt might be made upon it."
"Your French gold?"
"Yes. We had occasion some months ago to strengthen our resources, and borrowed for that purpose 30,000 Napoleons from the Bank of France.
Watson.
It has become known that we have never had occasion to unpack the money, and that it is still lying in our cellar. The crate upon which I sit contains 2,000 Napoleons packed between layers of lead foil. Our reserve of bullion is much larger at present than is usually kept in a single branch office, and the directors have had misgivings upon the subject."
"Which were very well justified,"
observed Holmes.
This way to the second.
And now it is time that we arranged our little plans. I expect that within an hour matters will come to a head. In the meantime, Mr. Merriweather, we must put the screen over that dark lantern. And sit in the dark? I am afraid so.
The terror in her eyes as
I
she
had
described his
brought a
rage.
pack of cards in
You
my
must be
pocket,
prepared for great
and I
violence.
thought that as we were a partie carrée, you might have your rubber after all. But I see that the enemy's preparations have gone so far that we cannot risk the presence of a light. And first of all, we must choose our positions. These are daring men, and though we shall take them at a disadvantage, they may do us some harm unless we are careful. I shall stand behind this crate, and do you conceal yourselves behind those. Then, when I flash a light upon them, close in swiftly. If they fire, Watson, have no compunction about shooting them down. I placed my revolver cocked upon the top of the wooden case behind which I crouched. Holmes shot the slide across the front of his lantern and left us in pitch darkness. Such an absolute darkness as I have never before experienced. The smell of hot metal remained to assure us that the light was still there, ready to flash out at a moment's notice. To me, with my nerves worked up to a pitch of expectancy, there was something depressing and subduing in the sudden gloom,
So that's it then.
and in the
The
cold,
inheritance.
dank air of the vault. "They have but one
You've come for me.
retreat," whispered Holmes. "That is back through the house into Saxe-Coburg
rather
Square.
primitive system of confinement.
I hope that you have done
but
what I
effective.
asked you, Jones."
I have an inspector and 2 officers waiting at the front door.
"Then we have stopped all the holes, and now we must be silent and wait." What a time it seemed! From comparing notes afterwards, it was but an hour and a quarter, yet it appeared to me that the night must have almost gone and the dawn be breaking above us. My limbs were weary and stiff, for I
You are
feared
quite
to
safe here
change
now,
my
Alice.
position.
We will contact Mr.
Yet
Fowler.
my nerves were worked up to the highest pitch of tension,
Stay by the doorway,
and my
Watson.
hearing
I'll attend
was
to
so
Alice.
acute that I could not only hear the gentle breathing of my companions, but I could distinguish the deeper, heavier in-breath of the bulky Jones from the thin, sighing note of the bank director. From my position, I could look over the case in the direction of the floor.
There is no escape.
Suddenly, my eyes caught the glint of a light. At first, it was but a lurid spark upon the stone pavement. Then it lengthened out until it became a yellow line, and then, without any warning or sound, a gash seemed to open, and a hand appeared. A white, almost womanly hand, which felt about in the centre of the little area of light. For a minute or more, the hand, with its writhing fingers, protruded out of the floor. Then it was withdrawn as suddenly as it appeared, and all was dark again, save the single lurid spark which marked a chink between the stones. Its disappearance, however, was but momentary. With a rending, tearing sound, one of the broad white stones turned over upon its side and left a square gaping hole, through which streamed the light of a lantern. Over the edge there peeped a clean-cut, boyish face, which looked keenly about it, and then, with a hand on either side of the aperture, drew itself shoulder-high and waist-high until one knee rested
Quickly,
upon the
now.
edge.
Block the passage.
In another instant he stood at the side of the hole and was hauling after him a companion, lithe and small like himself, with a pale face and a shock of very red hair. "It's all clear," he whispered. "Have you the chisel and the bags?" "Great Scott! Jump, Archie, jump, and I'll swing for it." Sherlock Holmes had sprung out and seized the intruder by the collar. The other dived down the hole, and I heard the sound of rending cloth as Jones clutched at his skirts. The light flashed upon the barrel of a revolver, but Holmes' hunting crop came down on the man's wrist, and the pistol clinked upon the stone floor. "It's no use, John Clay," said Holmes blandly. "You have no chance at all." "So I see," the other answered with the utmost coolness. "I fancy that my pal is all right, though I see that you have got his coat-tails. There are 3 men waiting for him at the door," said Holmes. "Oh, indeed. You seem to have done the thing very completely.
Stop right there.
I must compliment you." "And I you," Holmes answered. "Your red-headed idea was very new and effective." "You'll see your pal again presently," said Jones. "He's quicker at climbing down holes than I am. Just hold out while I fix the derbies." "I beg that you will not touch me with your filthy hands," remarked our prisoner as the handcuffs clattered upon his wrists. "You may not be aware that I have royal blood in my veins. Have the goodness also, when you address me, always to say
You're quite safe
sir
now.
and please."
Everything is going to be all right.
"All right," said Jones with a stare and a snigger. "Well, would you please, sir, march upstairs where we can get a cab to carry your highness to the police station?" "That is better," said John Clay serenely. He made a sweeping bow to the 3 of us and walked quietly off in the custody of the detective. "Really, Mr. Holmes," said Mr. Merriweather as we followed them from the cellar, "I do not know how the bank can thank you or repay you. There is no doubt that you have detected and defeated in the most complete manner one of the most determined attempts at bank robbery that have ever come within my experience." "I have had 1 or 2 little scores of my own to settle with Mr. John Clay,"
Right, old boy.
said
You'll be fine
Holmes.
now.
"I have been at some small expense over this matter, which I shall expect the bank to refund. But beyond that, I am amply
Stay back, please.
repaid by having had an experience which is in many ways unique, and by hearing the very remarkable narrative of the Red-Headed League. You see, Watson," he explained in the early hours of the morning as we sat over a glass of whisky and soda in Baker Street, "it was perfectly obvious from the first that the only possible object of this rather fantastic business of the advertisement of the League and the copying of the encyclopedia
Severe.
must be to
And
get
in
this
shock.
not over-bright pawnbroker out of the way for a number of hours every day. It was a curious way of managing it, but really it would be difficult to suggest a
Everyone
better.
stay calm.
The method was no doubt suggested to Clay's ingenious mind by the colour of his accomplice's hair.
Oh, my
The
love!
£4 a week was a lure which must draw him, and what was it to them who were playing for thousands? They put in the advertisement. One rogue has the temporary
The evidence
office.
must be
The
secure.
other rogue incites the man to apply for it. And together they manage to secure his absence every morning in the week. From the time that I
Thank you, Mr.
heard
Holmes.
of the assistant having come for half
I am
wages,
so
it was
relieved.
obvious to me that he had some strong
Mrs.
motive
Rucastle,
for
I believe you
securing
have
the
some questions to
situation.
answer.
But how could you guess what the motive was?
It's all right, my dear.
Had there
We are
been
safe now.
women in the house, I should have suspected a mere vulgar intrigue.
She will need gentle care
That,
and
however,
quiet
was
rest
out of
to
the
fully
question.
recover.
The man's business was a small one, and there was nothing in his house which could account for such elaborate preparations, and such an expenditure as they were at. It must, then, be something out of the house. What could it be?
No bounds for what you have done.
I thought of the assistant's fondness for photography and his trick of vanishing into the cellar. The cellar. There was the end of this tangled clue. Then I made inquiries as to this mysterious assistant and found that I had to deal with one of the coolest and most daring criminals in London. He was doing something in the cellar, something which took many hours a day for months on end. What could it be once more? I could think of nothing save that he was running a tunnel to some other building. So far I had got when we went to visit the scene of action. I surprised you by beating upon the pavement with my stick. I was ascertaining whether the cellar stretched out in front or behind. It was not in front. Then I rang the bell, and as I hoped, the assistant answered it. We have had some skirmishes, but we had never set eyes upon each other before. I hardly looked at his face. His knees were what I wished to see. You must yourself have remarked how worn, wrinkled, and stained they were. They spoke of those hours of burrowing. The only remaining point was what they were burrowing for. I walked round the corner, saw the City and Suburban Bank abutted on our friend's premises, and felt that I had solved my problem. When you drove home after the concert, I called upon Scotland Yard and upon the chairman of the bank directors, with the result that you have seen.
And how could you tell that they would make their attempt tonight?
I asked. Well, when they closed their league offices, that was a sign that they cared no longer about Mr. Jabez Wilson's presence. In other words, that they had completed their tunnel. But it was essential that they should use it soon, as it might be discovered, or the bullion might be removed. Saturday would suit them better than any other day, as it would give them 2 days for their escape. For all these reasons, I expected them to come tonight.
You reasoned it out beautifully,
I exclaimed in unfeigned admiration.
It is so long a chain, and yet every link rings true.
It saved me from ennui, he answered, yawning. Alas, I already feel it closing in upon me. My life is spent in one long effort to escape from the commonplaces of existence. These little problems help me to do so.
And you are a benefactor of the race, said I.
He shrugged his shoulders. Well, perhaps, after all, it is of some little use, he remarked. L'homme c'est rien, l'œuvre c'est tout, as Gustave Flaubert wrote to George Sand. End of Adventure 2, The Red-Headed League.